So do you feel that it just feels like a very exciting time where finally audiences here might have access to these films in a way that maybe they haven't in the recent past? So do you feel like it's a good time?
See, it's always nice to be hopeful of time, and but this has been happening. It happened over many, many years, right? See, India is not extremely structured like how the West is. We don't speak one language. It's not like films happen out of one city only. It's 11 or 12 industries that are across 4 or 5 major ones and the others minors. But everyone churns out different types of movies, and there's so much variety within the language. I'm saying this is a Marathi film. There's so much variety in Marathi itself. So to kind of structure this is pretty hard. There's no one single method of doing it. But I think there is a lesser talk of it in the last decade or so. Like in the early round, say 20 years ago, 25 years ago, cinema that was alternative was pretty popular in each language. They had a certain recognition that was very different. Film festivals were much more popular. Government grants were far more accessible. So there was a system of this that kind of was championed a few years by a few filmmakers and then kind of dropped out. And post the advent of this social media world where there is extreme short content, there is news and media that covers films in a certain manner only. If the box office weekend does not hit a certain number, it does not mean of any value. I think the metrics kind of need to change in some manner because the habit is always there. A good film has always been a good film, and films that hold personal truth in some ways and have a decent aesthetic will age very beautifully. You see this film 5 years later, it will still continue to be as relevant as it is now, which is not the case with other cinema. So I think if there is an exercise from all directions, okay, now our job is film production and distribution. This is what we do. Whether it's the media, whether it's the way the audiences changes habits, I think all of it kind of needs to sink in together. It's definitely a better time than the last 5-7 years, for sure. But how does that get to a little larger standard? There's been a little more support from streamers. But the minute the streamers know that this is what the audience want and there is a sizable audience for it, I think they'll be more than happy to pick up more films like this.
बेसिकली ही फिल्म करण्याचा उद्देशच तो होता की काहीतरी आपण वेगळं करतो हे दाखवायचंच नाही आहे. आपण आपल्याच आजूबाजूला असलेल्या लोकांबद्दलच फिल्म करतो आहे आणि ते तितकंच नॉर्मल आहे. त्यांचं जीवन, सगळ्यांचं जीवन तितकंच नॉर्मल, हेच दाखवायचं होतं. आणि प्रॉब्लेम हाच आहे की जेव्हा आपण वेगळं काहीतरी दाखवतो आहे म्हणजे ते समांतर होतं असं नाही आहे. तो मला वाटतं काही फिल्ममेकर्सने ते केलं समांतर करायचं म्हणून त्याच ते काहीतरी त्याच्यामध्ये ते ॲस्थेटिक्स आणले, पण मला ते करायचंच नव्हतं. मला अशीच एक फिल्म करायची होती की जी सगळेच बघू शकतील. असं नाही की मला एकच ग्रुपला दाखवायची, आणि माझं ते कधीच नव्हतं. पण मग मला हे माहिती आहे की लोक हा विचार करणार की हे काहीतरी वेगळं, हे काहीतरी, पण मग तेच होऊ द्यायचं नव्हतं या फिल्मबद्दल. आणि कसं मी रेग्युलर ऑडियन्सना पण ही फिल्म सहजतेने दाखवू शकतो, तोच माझा मुद्दा होता ही फिल्म करण्याच्या मागे. सो मला काही वेगळं दाखवते, मला हे बिलकुल करायचं. त्यामुळे मी नेहमीच हे सांगतो की मी लोकांबद्दलची गोष्ट सांगतो, काही वेगळं नाही, हे तितकंच साधं आहे. आणि म्हणून ती कथा पण तितक्याच साधेपणे सांगितली गेलेली. त्याच्यात कुठेच काही हे बघा आम्ही काहीतरी वेगळं दाखवतो आहे, हे काहीतरी वेगळं, ह्याच्यात हे काहीच आम्हाला करायचं, कारण की मला माहिती आहे हेच होतं युजली. आणि म्हणून म्हणून ते ऑडियन्समध्ये पण हे काहीतरी वेगळं, मला ते काहीच करायचं नव्हतं. आणि मला पाहिजे होतं की सगळ्या ऑडियन्सनी येऊन ही फिल्म बघावी, आणि तोच एक मुद्दा होता. आणि त्या हिशोबानेच ती फिल्म बनवली गेलेली आहे. So no, his thing was that usually these films are is parallel kind of a cinema, and only certain people only watch this film, and that's why I said I didn't want to make parallel, and I didn't want to make it for only certain audience. I wanted to make this film to be seen by all of them, and that's why I wanted to show them as normal human beings and just humans and connection between humans, so everyone can watch it. And I wanted to bring the simplicity for that reason only, so that everyone can watch it. So I'm just telling him about all those. I mean, I want to start saying exactly a year back, we got a call from Sundance that the film is selected in the competition section, and today, just after a year, we are announcing this trailer and the release, and Rana sir has come on board to distribute it. It's just an amazing feeling that we are experiencing right now, and I'm just really happy about that. And yep.
But just take me back through these last 7 months. It's been this insane journey. You're in multiple film festivals. You're at the Lincoln Center. You're getting these messages from these filmmakers. So what's been the craziest, most holy shit part of the entire journey?
I think most exciting thing was that this film being so specific about India and about our culture and the grieving period and everything, but that it's resonating with everyone around the globe. That is something I'm so happy about. And because we were trying to make a story about humans and their connections, so which is the universal thing. Grief, love, parental bonding are the universal themes, and those are resonating with everyone. I think that's the biggest thing we have been hearing everywhere, and I hope that, and now we are coming home with the film, and I just hope that the Indian audience will feel that even more. I feel, yeah.
And I know you've been talking about it a lot over the last 7 months, but do you want to just take people back to where this film started from? It's partly autobiographical. It's when you sort of visited your ancestral village after your dad passed away. But yeah, do you want to tell us the inception of the journey of this film?
Yeah, so in 2016, my father passed away and my mom is here today. And we had to go to my ancestral village for the 10-day grieving period because all our relatives stay there. So what we decided that if only we are there, they can come and meet us and be part of all the rituals. So we went there, and almost before 2016, for almost a decade, I didn't go to the village and was not meeting anyone. But this time I had no option. And I knew that once I'm there, everyone is going to talk about my marriage because I was 30. And that started happening. Everyone was just talking about my marriage, and that wasn't the time to stir anything. So I didn't want to unnecessarily do those coming out things or anything, because just like me, my mom had lost her partner, and she needed all those relatives to be with her, and I didn't want to be a problem in that. So I decided I will just endure the pressure and go back to Mumbai. And during that time, I started having this thought, what if I had a friend over here? I would have just sneaked out with him for a while and stayed away from this pressure. And that thought stayed, and I started thinking, oh, there is a film, I think. And I realized that, all the things that I'm experiencing in this time, I can club both these things and create something that can be, that can feel like Indian, because we always hear about this kind of story, they are Western influenced and this is all Western. So I thought all of this will give me a chance to create something our own and show that this is as normal as it can be, the way my father or my mother accepted me without any drama. And I thought this was so normal, and I felt that this simplicity is just because they love their child, and that love is allowing them, to accept the son without any struggle or problem. And I thought that needs to be shown, that needs to be portrayed as authentically as possible. And that's how the journey started. And Neeraj came.
You want to just introduce your team that's here?
My producers are here. Neeraj Churi is the main producer. Then we have Naren, we have Sid. Other two producers are not in India, so they are not here. But we have Jim, who's a co-producer. Then there is Neha. Neha is there. Then I have editor Anadi. Then my partner is also one of the producer, Harish. Then we have Parag, who's the associate producer. We have our actors, both the actors, Suraj and Bhushan are here. And of course, Rana sir is here, who's distributing the film. And one of the things that mother, Jayashri ma'am, who played the mother, she couldn't be here today. She lost her father, and she's now in the village doing all the grieving period. So she said, I can't come until I do the 10th day and 12th day. So she's not here. So yeah, the team is here.
Do you also want to mention the 4 new EPs who have just come
Yes, and of course, we just announced through this trailer, we wanted to announce this through this trailer. We have the EPs, Nagraj sir, Vikram sir, Nikhil sir, and Sai, who's an actor. They have come on board. I'm so happy that they are championing the film, and we are just so happy about the whole journey of this film. And I think that it is an incredible time for Indian cinema and independent cinema, that films are getting the theatrical release. Last year we had All We Imagine, which again Rana sir distributed. We had Girls Will Be Girls, and this year we have so many independent films coming, which have not only gone to the festival but are releasing this month. So most of us will get that chance to watch all those in the cinemas, and hopefully after that they will come to our houses as well. So I'm just happy about this whole movement, I think.
Speaking of this whole movement, Rana, I have to bring you in here. We were on this stage literally about 6 months ago talking about All We Imagine Is Light, and you came on board, put your might behind that film, now this one. What is it about this film? What is it about Sabar Bonda that made you want to champion it?
Well, hello, good afternoon. One is, I think we've been trying to champion the cause of alternate storytelling for a while now, and we came out of a comfort zone 6 months ago with All We Imagine, where we were just not doing stuff in Telugu, but moved out to being able to release it across the country. The effort really is to institutionalize this as a way of life and a way of viewing cinema. And Sabar Bonda kind of fit straight up at that alley, because very rarely do filmmakers make stories that have an extreme personal truth in it. And I think this film has all of that. It's part of his personal life. It's stories that he knows. It's a village that he lived in. It's and that entire texture comes through from the trailer and in the film, of course. And yeah, then the idea was, okay, now this time it's Marathi. It was so every time we come up with a different way of trying to put the film across to its audience. And I think in our efforts to kind of institutionalize this, Sabar Bonda comes that way. So one, I think the craftsman of the filmmaker is extreme. Every time you see, like, okay, we spoke about a grieving period, which is there through the course of the film. I barely speak Hindi, so Marathi is really far away from me. But I'm a guy from Telugu. I get a certain culture of how things happen in my village, things happen in my home. And this was, for me, an insight into the country that is so much like me, yet speaks different languages. So it definitely is a special film to get out there. And first, a big congratulations to you on all the successful awards he's been winning all over the world. And we're just trying to make this a habit in India, and let's hope this goes further.
But you really are fighting the good fight, which we very much appreciate. It also feels like this is the happy part of Pan India. Like you said, you really like bridging these cultures. I want to ask you about All We Imagine Is Light. Again, it's only been 6 months. It had this wide theatrical release. It was out in cinemas for about 6 weeks, if I'm not wrong, which is, very heartening. I know it's very soon, but what were your big learnings from that in terms of distributing independent cinema?
See, one, there is an audience for this cinema. They're just not, because mainstream cinema has a large marketing vehicle which we all understand, okay, here you go, this event will happen, this is how news will cover it, this is how the trailer will be launched, this is the time the music will be. There's a certain understanding and a way to look forward to this cinema. But things that are slightly alternative in its nature, see, like All We Imagine took a 7-week run, which rarely happens for anything that's mainstream also these days. So it needs a different cycle in the theaters. In a similar city, you will have different pockets that has these audience. So I think it gave us a great understanding of data measure and where the audience are for films like these. And I think it's an effort over maybe 8 or 10 films that we're able to release in different parts of the country. Like we were talking about it earlier, mainstream has figured out different exercises to reach its different audiences. And here we're still in the early days of, or rather nascent stages of releasing indie films. We're like, how does the entire country get to watch it? There is a subtitle audience. Is there another way to get it forward? So I think these will be the continual learnings that we'll be able to pick.
I love what you said about trying to institutionalize and provide a structure for distributing these films, which is very, very hopeful. Rohan, you mentioned, not wanting to show trauma with this film, which I thought about it, is you're not, so many queer stories are about devastation, trauma, and you're not doing that with this film. So I'm curious to know what are the various sort of conventions you wanted to bust with this film, because you've said in interviews that you didn't want to make a film about gay men, you wanted to make a film about men, about people. You've said that you didn't want to just dwell on the trauma and the devastation of it. So what were the things you kept in mind, and why was that so important to you?
So first thing, I never thought that, I'm not going to do all of these things. It was just very intuitively that came, and I never think about what I want to say or what I don't. Because whenever you get an idea, that idea comes in certain form and you know what it is. And so whenever I was watching some films, I kept feeling, but this is now how the real life is. And you will hear that from most people, that they say that most of the time these stories are not really showing the reality, or people don't feel that, oh, this is not me on the screen. And I was also feeling that. And when I had this positive experience with my family. My dad was a driver, and my mom, she never went to a school, and my dad taught her how to write her name, and since then she started using it as a signature. So in my head, I thought that, oh, they will never understand this, because the coming out stories that I had heard were all tragic, and the films always portrayed that. So I was so scared. But when I took that chance to, tell them about my sexuality, they just accepted it. And I was like, why are we not talking about this in the films? When we start showing that a mother like her or a father like my father are accepting the kids without any problem, when we show that positive aspect, that's when maybe, stories will change, and that's when we will normalize it, and we will not always say, oh, this is something different. Because I feel that a person's sexuality cannot be his or her identity. And that's what I wanted to show, because most films surround around identity and acceptance. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to show them as human beings, as any other normal human beings. That was the point. And also show this love story as just like any other love story. And we heard that from many audiences who watched the film, and they said, we just saw this as a love story and we are so happy about it. We never even thought that these are two men falling in love. We just saw that two human beings are falling in love. So these were the things. And also that, most these stories end in tragedies. I didn't want to do that. This film starts with the death, but goes towards hope. I wanted to show hope. And because in my personal life, I found someone, I'm living that life, so why not show that? And that were mainly the things. And of course, as I said, when I got that idea about incorporating the grief and this period and meeting someone in the village, I thought this will also allow me to incorporate aspect of rural side of sexuality and how people are there, because most people don't even feel like there could be queer people in rural areas, because films have always shown that it's about city, and people do think that it is all Western. I have had discussions, or rather debates, when I was working as an interior designer with my colleagues, and they always thought this is all Western and this is all about rich people and all. And that's why I thought this is important to show that this is normal, this is human, and you can find this everywhere in the world and in all stratas of the society. So these things came in the story, and later on you realize, okay, you are doing all of this, but while writing, I don't think about I want to do this things. So that was the process.
But you're so right when you say that, like coming out, and when we see these narratives on screen, it is normally sort of devastation. It is, and hope is not something they tend to leave us with. I also wanted to ask you, you've mentioned in interviews that through the development of this film in labs, you got a lot of feedback from people almost urging you to message more, lecture society, give it back to anyone. And you said, I don't want to do that. This is not that. So why was that important? Did you not make it an, in quotes, message movie, or that typical insert monologue here kind of narrative?
Yeah, I think I understood when that mentor told me, this is the power of cinema. I said, yeah, but I'm not making that kind of a cinema, and I want to show the reality. And I told her that, I know so many people who've been living their life. They have not, stood up in front of the whole family or society, but they have found their ways to deal with it and still find, their happiness. So I want to show that, because that's when most of us will connect, most of the audience will connect with it, because they will see, oh, this is us, we have lived these moments. That is why it was important to use not only mine, some of my other people, friends' experiences. Like the mother-son relationship is actually not from my experience with my mother. Me and my mother are very quiet ones, but that was inspired from my partner and his mother, because they were really talkative, and they would even show love to each other. We never did that, but I thought this film will allow me to create certain moments that I have not experienced in my life. So, so these lived in experiences actually helped me craft that and to show this thing so that people will connect with it.
And Rana, I wanted to ask you, I feel like a lot of audiences are tired of being lectured to, and that's why, films like this, it is about humanity, it is about people first. Do you feel like films can have an impact in sort of impacting people, in terms of shaping hearts and minds? Do you feel like films can leave a lasting impact?
You see, just to add to what you were saying last, right, about the relationship with the mother. Now, wherever you're from, whatever part of it, it's such an identifiable emotion. It's what is beautiful in that film is there was a mother accepting of his being. Now it's how does he accept the mother understanding this? I think it's such a beautiful way this whole thing is designed, and it's extremely human like that, right? And sorry, your question was is it important to continue?
No, do you feel like these films can have an impact in starting conversations, in sort of shaping hearts and minds?
See, I think a good film will change your life in some manner. It creates an impact which is far more subliminal than what you understand at a basic conscious level. And when topics that are spoken about in some kind of taboo are spoken in simple terms, in very relatable means, I think that will connect to a larger group of people. And I think this film does that very effectively, and especially with the mother being such a key force in the movie. Actually, it's funny. The minute I met your mom, I started thinking of all those scenes. So now I know it's of a different reference. But yeah, I think the beauty is he's made it so human that you will relate it to it. Doesn't matter where you are sitting and watching it from.
Rohan, I also want to ask you about silences. This film has a very distinct use of sound. Firstly, there is no background score, and it is the sound design. But also, you're so comfortable with having your character sit in silence, and so many of the silences is where everything is being said. So why was that an important choice for you to have so much of us just experiencing them sit together and everything that goes unsaid?
So one of the things was I was trying to create a portrait of that time also, and when I was in the village, all my relatives, they were working because they used to go to their farm. My cousin is a vet, so he used to go on his visits. So mostly it used to be me and my mom and my sister-in-law in the house. And throughout the time we were just waiting, and the rural life, it feels slow, and then there was a grieving period. So and I was just sitting in the house. So the time was so slow. I wanted to create that. And when I was sitting in the house, I was just listening to the sound of the village. And I thought, to bring that tenderness, I thought that the sound design will be a key to create that tenderness and, just to immerse people in that world. So that's why that choice came. And I knew that since before I started writing, then I had to write the script knowing that there won't be any background music, so I had to incorporate sound design also in it. So all the silences were always part of the story, and I feel silences are something that we do experience in our lives, so I just wanted to be a part of it. And the whole thing was I wanted to make a tender and warm film about this time, which we usually associate with sadness, but I thought this sound of nature will in some way also calm audience and immerse them and make them feel warm. So those were the ideas that led to this decision, and my sound designer Naren is here, Anirban is not here, they both did it, and I'm just so happy that they really put their heart and soul to create the layered soundscape that we hear now in the film. Is also because of them. And yeah, it's and I always said, I during the pitch I used to say that, I want audience to just go into the theater, sit in that seat, and I just want them to feel as if this film is giving them a warm hug. So all of those thoughts led us to this choice.
Well, I can tell you it worked. And it really does. It really does transport you there and place you there. Rana, I wanted to ask you about, it's very clear that Indian indies are having a moment. They have been over the last few years. All We Imagine Is Light, Sabar Bonda. So many of these films, while we watched Against the Tide, All That Breathes, they are getting a lot of recognition overseas, which is very hopeful. But what's giving me hope is, of late, it feels like they're having a moment here, in terms of a release here, is a key aspect that can help independent filmmakers sort of really get the traction and attention they deserve.
Yeah, I think these people championing the film makes a big difference and also because these filmmakers have done great films, and when you see they are also supporting, I think it shows that audience also that maybe they have to go and watch these films, and I think that really helps. Yeah.
See, the entire, apart from Bombay, which has got a lot more corporates backing film production, the rest of India is almost personally financed. It's homes and loans that are borrowed to make films. That's going to be pretty hard because we're a capital deficit country in some ways. It's not that finance comes cheap at all in India. See, I'm not such a large believer of grants and others because they stay for a small period of time, and then if the grant suddenly chooses not to be there, then there is suddenly an ecosystem that kind of shuts off.
Or they come with expectations.
Yeah, I'm saying expectations is one, but the worst thing is when they choose to stop, right? Like time and again, I've seen other corporates that have been backing, whether it's festivals or indie circuits, that suddenly decide to pull the plug off, and now there is no home for that cinema anymore. So I think if we're able to create a slightly more sustained model, like how the other cinema has done, I think that's to me a longer term, easier understanding. Cultivate your audience, know where your audience are, and find a way to consistently bring these type of stories to them.
I like how we expect you to have all the answers. I know you don't, but you are championing the underdog, so we will ask you this. But Rohan, for you, what advice would you have for an independent filmmaker? This is your first film, you've made a short film in the past. In terms of just making that film, in terms of the struggle of that part, what advice would you have to get to that point if I want to get my call from Sundance?
I think the only advice that I have, because I tried that, was just be consistent and persistent, because I just kept making film. I didn't study filmmaking.
Entirely self-taught.
I was working as an interior designer, and in 2007 I just started making films because one of my friends pushed me to make a film. So I just started making films on mobile phone. But after that first film, which was really terrible, but the excitement of the process and creating something was so exciting that I kept making films by borrowing my friend's phone because I didn't have one, and going to the cyber cafe to edit the film. That's how I started, and kept making it to learn the craft. So I think you have to just do that. You have to be consistent, and then that road will take you somewhere, is what I feel. So I think that's the only advice. I be consistent and persistent. And thankfully, in my case, I had support. First was my father, even though he's not here, but he was the first person who noticed it and said that, I can see you want to change your career. It's okay if you want to do that, but do it passionately. So he was that first person, and that was, again, just like he accepted my sexuality, this was also important that he pushed me to do that and supported me. And then I found so many of my friends who supported me during this time. That support was also important. Because of them, I'm able to do this. So all that happened, I'm lucky. But but being persistent, consistent, that was mine, right? I had to do it. So I think people have to do that, and that journey will lead them somewhere, I think.
I think it comes back to what you were saying about the film, that it doesn't always, we always romanticize the struggle of it, but there is so much support and love there that doesn't get maybe celebrated enough. I have a lot more I want to talk to you guys about, but I will open it up to the audience if anyone wants to ask any questions.
Like so many, you have made a film, which is, you said it's your own experience poured into it. And you also didn't want to make it too commercial also, by talking about the trauma, as he said. How do you feel when the industry stalwarts like Rana sir Nikhil Advani, Vikramaditya, Sai Tamankar, supporting the film and championing the film. How do you feel?
Amazing, right? Like we, as a filmmaker, we do want our films to reach the audience, right? And I mean, one of my friends said that, life is hard, but filmmaking is harder.
Yes.
And all the filmmaker can say that. So making that first feature is so hard. And that then you make it somehow, and then people like Rana and all the EPs that we have, when they come on board to support that journey, going to the theaters and going in front of the audience, it's always something that all filmmakers dream of, and that is happening. So as I was just saying, a journey that started a year back with Sundance, and now this, it is dream-like, and I really feel that, I mean, if my dad would have been here, he would have seen what is happening, who was the first person to support, and he said, do it passionately. He would have seen it, this. Yeah. But yeah, of course, in some ways I also felt, after making so many shots, I was ready with my feature, and even though he was not here, the time I spent in the village and he was absent, that led me to make my first feature. So I still feel that in some ways he's still supporting me in my journey. So, and then this happening, it's just dream coming true.
I know, I can understand. Just one question to Rana sir also. For me, the hook line was, or a attractive part was, it's the story about human beings. For you to support the film, what was the hook line?
Well, actually, it's so funny. Like, today is the first time I saw the trailer. I saw the film, but I never saw the trailer. And see, though it's a subject matter that I may or may not relate to, it was so much other that just felt like it could be anyone's life. And I'd just go back to a relationship with a mother, which was such a key integral part of the story. And I think that you just get to, only this cinema gives you a texture of what India really is. Now, I'm somebody who lives in Hyderabad. We make films, we speak in a different language. Our cinema is different, our culture is different. Now, for somebody like me to go to see what a texture of a village in Maharashtra is, I'd never be able to see this except through cinema. And through lives of people that are very, very different. And normally you would imagine stories like this to take a certain traumatic turn. But a tale like this being hopeful, I think to me that was what was very exciting about this film.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Namaskar, Sujata here from News Plus Views. Everybody is having the same question over here. What is the significance of Sabar Bonda over here? So what is the meaning of that? How it's related to the peer relationship or anything?
So basically, Sabar Bonda is a name of a fruit that comes on cactus. It's a small fruit, red color fruit, which has thorns on it. So my mom always used to talk about this fruit whenever we used to go to her village where she grew up. And that village is in the mountains, and that's where we shot the film as well. So that village is surrounded by mountains, it's dry, so there used to be a lot of cactuses there. So whenever we used to go there in the summer vacation, my mom used to always talk about that fruit and how they used to eat it as kids. And I was always fascinated with it, even though I didn't see it, because that fruit comes in winter and we used to always go in the summer. And that time there was no Google that you can just go and Google how to see how it is. When I was writing the script and there was this moment where I wanted to have some fruit, I thought of that fruit, and that's when I Googled it and I saw some videos of how people eat, which mom had, told me, and I thought this is interesting. So when we think about cactus, we immediately have this, landscape that it's harsh because cactus grows in harsh environment, and even after that, it has this fruit which is so tender. Even if there are thorns outside, it's tender inside, juicy, and it has lots of medicinal qualities as well. And I thought, it represents the life of these two characters. These two characters are also going through some, difficulties in their life, but still they find their own ways, and they don't, they want to be true to themselves. And when they two are together, they share that delicate moments and warmth. And I thought, that represents that bonding, represents that fruit, and that's why I thought that's the correct name for the film man. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you so much.
Anyone else?
Yeah, hi, my name is Arundhati. I'm here. If you can see me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so you were saying that this is a story which is a personal story and somehow you weaved it into a film, right? I would like to know which part of the journey from your story to turning it into a film, which was the hardest part in the narrative that it was difficult for you probably to put it in script to screen?
Writing is difficult. Writing, and even if you know, putting that into a screenplay is difficult. So the whole screenplay was difficult, but thankfully, usually what I do is, first of all, the whole film is not personal experience. The grieving period is, and as I said, there was no friend. So I was just thinking, what if there was a friend? So the 10% of the film is from my personal experience, which is that me and my mom had to go to the village and stay there, and I had to go through this pressure of marriage. That everything was real. Rest of the film, where the character meets his childhood friend and whatever happens, so 90% film is fiction. So in a way, it is actually a fiction film, just inspired by some experiences of mine. So then combining those two and putting it in the script where both the things flow seamlessly. So doing that is the hardest thing. And so writing the whole script was difficult because the way I wanted it to present this whole story and the way I wanted it to, so that people, believe in it and they can see, okay, this is something that we want to be part of. So first, putting that authenticity and honesty was the difficult part, I think. But usually that's how I make film. I always want to be as authentic, as honest as possible. So that's the only thing.
Can I just ask, what does that script look like? Because so many of the most moving moments are those silences, right? It's with the mom and him, it's with the two men. So is all of that written? Are you finding those moments?
Yeah. You will see silence words so many times. They stay silent, or there's that. Even sound, you hear this sound. So all the sound design, everything was not of everything, because most of it is also Naren and Anirban. They also contributed later on, but some of the sound design that you will hear, that was also mentioned. That's how they also got that base to work on and build on their own perspective. And so most of it, like people who have read the script, they said that no one really writes in this much detail. And I always feel that, what is a screenplay? Screenplay simply means what the audience is going to see on the screen and also hear. You have to write those images and audio into the script. You are not writing just a story, you are writing images. So if you you have to write it in that detail so the readers can really imagine or hear the whole film. So it was always there in the film.
I love that idea of writing images.
I
Anyone
have
else?
one more question, and this question is to Rana. Tell me, when you watch the film as an audience for the first time, what was your very unadulterated, pure emotion after watching the film? And can you, not as a distributor or as a producer, and can you still watch a film like an audience, like a pure audience,
I think I lost that about 30 years ago. So I grew up in an editing room more than a film theater. So I don't know. I think that sense I actually don't know what that means anymore. But I think anytime you watch a film and it moves you is only when there is a personal truth of that creator. Which, as much as it could be a diversely different story, diversely different setting or an understanding that you have in your personal life, but you're yet able to hold on to many things that happen there. And you almost feel like the way he has designed his sound, or at least the world that you kind of get into in the first 20, 30 minutes of the film, you feel like you're one in that village and this is what you're seeing. I think that's what holds personal truth to me. Every time an event happened, I was like, okay, now what are they going to say? And every time the mother and the son, there was a conversation or there was a certain silence, like there was anxiety in me in saying, okay, now what is this conversation going to pan out like, right? So I think that happens in your life, even if this is not the story of your life. So I think that was always something special. The fact that it had personal truth, personal acceptance, personal way of creating hope for oneself. So I think that was universally what connected with me.
Hi, Rana sir, Samir here from Movie Talkies. Like this, independent films like this usually face distribution issues. So how do you see Spirit Media's role, into taking this distribution ahead and making it wider for the audience?
Well, that's why Spirit Media has a distribution division. No, one is, I think, see, distribution is one part of it. I think it's largely how we are able to reach audiences. So I think it's just not what we're doing here at Spirit, it's ultimately what all of you can help us provide and say, okay, this is a manner you're supposed to watch these films. This is what cinema like this does to society. It's important that cinema like this continues to be, because this is the only mirror to society that's there. The rest of it is an entertainment purpose vehicle, but this actually can move your life. So I think it's a larger ecosystem that's at play, and we're just the beginning of the needle. That's it.
So I will just get a mic to
Get
you.
the mic to.
I'm Ronita. Is it normal and human to discriminate against women? Patriarchy has been doing this for centuries, and homosexuality is just continuing something that patriarchy has been doing all along.
I didn't understand the question.
What is it's a statement, ma'am, but what is the question?
Yeah,
Is the-
I would like you to respond to the statement. Homosexuality patronizes women, discriminates against women, marginalizes women. And patriarchy has been doing this for centuries, and homosexuality is just continuing what the patriarchal system has done. So, would you like to
Well, I'm not somebody that is like wise enough to comment on society. All I'd like to say is each film to its own, and the film holds a personal truth, and it's hard to differentiate. I mean, there are 4,000 films in the country that are coming out every year. It's hard to say, okay, this is what is happening and this is what's impact on society. I think it's the other way around. It's society's impact that is making us create these films to make sure that the truth comes to a larger audience. That's my understanding of it. See, as much as being cast is a functional, like in those characters, I mean, you just put me in there, I'd do a bad job. They were far, far better than what I did. But see, I think telling a story and casting the right person is 50% of the job done. If you can look the part and be there, it's far better. Like if I could, it doesn't matter which subject matter it is. I think if I find a role as an actor that I can fit in and perform in some manner, I'd go ahead and do it.
I think we will have to call it there. But I just wanted to thank the both of you. I really feel like this film, this conversation has really left me with hope. It just feels like a difficult time for underdogs, in cinema and the smaller film. And the fact that someone like you would come on board to champion this film, to give people like us a chance to experience it on the big screen, is very, very hopeful. So thank you to both of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
September 19th.
Yes, September 19th is the release in the cinemas. I would also like to call my mom. So